I hope that you are all feeling very well rested, got a good night's sleep last night. Since we are in this lovely 8 a.m. class, I'd like to ask you all for a show of hands. How many of you got 8 hours of sleep last night? 2. Okay. Oh, 3. How many got 7 hours of sleep last night? Okay. 6 hours? Okay. Less than 6 hours? Okay. So, you've all probably heard before that we need to get somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every night. But we have very busy personal lives where we're dealing with schoolwork and jobs and families, and a lot of times it can be easy to sacrifice a couple of those Z's to get more done. But as someone who is a student, I've had many of my own late nights and tend to function on very little sleep myself, and I began to wonder, how exactly does this affect our bodies? So, the different ways that sleep deficiency can impact our body is what I'm going to be covering in this speech today. So, first, I will be talking about how constant sleep deficiency can put you at a higher risk of developing serious health conditions, the impacts that it is going to have on your mental health, and finally the impacts that it will have on your cognitive function. I would like to add a disclaimer that these effects that you're going to hear about are not things that are going to happen to you immediately if you miss 1 or 2 nights of good sleep. But if you are someone that's averaging 6 or less hours of sleep every night, that's when this comes into play. So let's begin. First, sleep deficiency can increase your risk for developing serious health conditions. One of these health conditions is coronary heart disease. In a study from the Korean Journal of Physiology and Pharmacology that was published on September 1st, 2022, it stated that people who get under 6 hours of sleep each night are at a higher risk for coronary heart disease than those who get more than 6 hours of sleep. In addition to coronary heart disease, having a constant sleep deficiency may also put you at a higher risk for developing type 2 diabetes. According to a March 17, 2021 blog post from the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, studies have shown that participants who slept for short durations were about 40% more likely than those with 7 to 8 hours of sleep to develop diabetes. As you can see, there's not really much to elaborate on when it comes to these statistics, but it's very obvious that sleep deficiency can put you at a higher risk factor for developing these certain health conditions. To continue, let's talk about how sleep can impact our mental health. Sleep can also have a negative impact on your mental health. In an article published by the Columbia Department of Psychiatry on March 16, 2022, Assistant Professor of Psychology and Clinical Psychologist Elizabeth Blake Zakarin claims that sleep deprivation studies show that otherwise healthy people can experience increased anxiety and distress levels following poor sleep. I myself have experienced some of these effects before. As you'll remember in my mini speech last week, I talked about how in high school I was involved in marching band and theater, both of which are very involved extracurricular activities that need multiple hours of rehearsal outside of the normal school day. And I was also working a part-time job, and if I was so lucky, I would also get to have rehearsals and work in the same day. This resulted in a lot of late nights for me. I would get home around 10 or 10:30 sometimes, and then I would still have to eat dinner and shower and do homework and just kind of mentally prepare myself for the next day. So the result of that and not getting as much sleep as I should have been, especially as a growing teenager, I was very tired and definitely a little bit depressed. So think about how you feel when maybe you miss a night or two of good sleep. You might not feel like yourself, and that's normal because there are negative effects on your mental health. Now you know how a lack of good sleep can impact your mental health, so let's move on to how it impacts your cognitive function. Sleep deficiency deficiency also has a negative impact on your cognitive function. Sleep, the official journal of the Sleep Research Study, published an article on July 22nd, 2022, which claimed that all measures of driving performance, behavioral alertness, subjective alertness, and workload were impaired with increasing time awake. Have you ever fallen asleep in class before because you stayed up too late doing some homework the night before? Or maybe you've been driving late at night and got a couple winks of micro sleep during that time. I know someone who has experienced that. Bad. So this is probably different than your normal behavior. And it's easy to see that if you are experiencing a sleep deficiency, it can impact your productivity because of your brain being essentially tired and worn out, as well as making you a safety risk, depending on how well you can handle that sleep deficiency. So, in conclusion, I hope that I was able to successfully explain the different ways that sleep deficiency can impact your body, including how it puts you at a higher risk of developing certain health conditions, how it impacts your mental health, and how it impacts your cognitive function. With such busy lives, it's very easy to adjust our sleep schedules in order to get more done. But next time you need to pull an all-nighter to finish that homework assignment, don't forget how you may be impacting your body.